Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'd like to bring on my next guest, Carl Reed. He's a college football analyst for 24/7 Sports. What's going on, Carl?
Hey, how you doing, man? I'm glad to be here.
All right, so I definitely want to get your perspective. Former coach, state champion. Miami has made a lot of coaching moves, a lot of excitement with the Miami fan base, national level. Let's get right into Miami's moves at the coordinator spot. Josh Gattis comes over from Michigan. I just want to get your perspective and your thoughts on Gattis as an OC.
Well, Josh Gattis, number one, is a tremendous OC. I think he proved that this year with the historic season that Michigan had, taking down Ohio State for the first time in what it feels like decades. He's also a tremendous recruiter with tremendous relationships. Has spent time with James Franklin at Penn State, with Saban at Alabama. Just a super coach overall, and he's definitely going to do big things in Miami for Coach Cristobal.
One of the things that I've been able to gather in either talking to people or just kind of learning more about him, it seems like he's certainly adapted his style, his coaching style. It adjusted a little bit at Michigan. He's a wide receivers background guy, but they ran the ball so well this past year. How big do you think that is for a coordinator to adjust to essentially what they have on the roster?
Well, I think it's huge because most of them don't do it, and a lot of guys lose their jobs because of it. When he came in Michigan, like you say, coming from a passing background, being a wide receiver guy, he adjusted, he adapted to playing football up north, to having big offensive linemen, hard running backs, and he put together a really creative offense that allowed Michigan to be the best that they could be with the group of players that they had.
And one of the things we'll continue to get into some things again, expectations, how things have gone for Miami, the key for this offseason. We definitely want to get into that. Coach, you touched on a little bit about just the adaptability, but also the finding the right fit for coaches. It seems like that's such a big deal too. What do you think with Gattis, maybe how he would fit into Miami, how that's going to essentially work moving forward?
Well, I think he'll fit into Miami well because Miami, you have to be able to recruit South Florida, and it's so relationship based. And he has some of those relationships already. And he's going to be a guy that's I think will be well received by the high school coaches and the 7-on-7 guys down there that have a lot of influence over the players. I just think he's a rock star, and he'll be a head coach before long himself.
Yeah, definitely on track. And I put a note on the message boards on Inside the U there that 21 of the last 25 Royals Award winners have went on to be head coaches, and he's certainly in line to do that, especially at his age at 38. He's on the right trajectory, which is a good thing for Miami. I know we've not seen that a ton in recent years where guys get promoted to that head spot there. A guy that's been a head coach before as a defensive coordinator in Kevin Steele years ago. He comes over essentially from Tennessee, but he was at Auburn there. His most recognizable job as a DC, a guy with over 10 years experience as a DC. Your thoughts on Kevin Steele? And it's kind of just much different than Gattis as the older veteran guy, but a guy that's been around, especially in the South, at a lot of different schools, SEC, ACC. What was your reaction to Kevin Steele coming over to Miami to be the DC?
Well, Kevin Steele he's older, but he's been around a long time. His dad was a legendary high school coach down there in Alabama as well. Kevin Steele is one of the best recruiters in all of college football in the country. He has tremendous relationships. He's done some great things defensively, but he has a lot of big time guys who have played with him in the past that really vouch for him and value his ability as a defensive coordinator and as a communicator. I think he has great relationships with his kids, and I think that he'll be a high level guy on the defensive side at the University of Miami.
What kind of defense are you expecting Steele to either run, or keys or priorities for him? Essentially, some non-negotiables as a coach. What do you expect Miami's defense to look like? Because frankly, Miami's 7-5 season last year, there were a lot of disappointing defensive outputs, or the last few years, really kind of dropping off on that side of the ball. What do you think is going to be important for Coach Steele? The things that he's going to certainly want to implement while at Miami.
Well, Coach Steele has done a lot of 40 front stuff in the past down in the SEC. But I think one thing that he's good at is I think he's adaptability. We just talked about adaptability with Josh Gattis. He's going to get in there and he's going to analyze that roster, and he's going to put a defensive unit out there that is going to tackle very well. I think that when we start talking about schemes, some people forget how important the fundamentals are. Being able to tackle, being able to cover guys, being able to defend the deep part of the field, and he'll look at that. He'll look at the talent that's on the roster, the new recruits, the guys that have been gotten out of the transfer portal. He'll put out a unit that allows those guys to be successful.
Overall, again, more assistant coaches still to be hired, but overall, your thoughts? Miami adds Gattis and Steele as the coordinators. I know a lot of people are wondering who it was going to be. You get the head coach with some with a good resume, a guy that's won, but now you get these coordinators and just overall analysis of these two guys, kind of just as a whole for Miami and Cristobal hiring these two guys to be the coordinators.
Well, he said when he got the job, he was big game fishing and he was going to go after some of the top assistants in the country. And he's done that. I just saw where he got the defensive back coach from Georgia, also recently coming straight off a national championship. So Coach Cristobal has done exactly what he said he's going to do so far in the hiring process. He's went out and got some of the very best guys in the country. Also, people, you can't shortchange how prolific of a recruiter he is himself, right? So I think that he's got Miami very excited. People have not been excited about Miami football for a very long time. I was talking to Uncle Luke the other day, and Uncle Luke is even excited. So, you know, when you're talking about, it's hard to get him excited about Miami recently. But those guys down there are pumped. College football wants to see Miami be great again, you know, and when the Canes are good, it's good for college football. So I'm hoping that Coach Cristobal can bring that excitement back.
Yeah, and obviously Miami fan base is just excited. Spring ball is starting, you know, next month. I mean, it gets going really quickly. They'll get a chance to see these guys in action. You touched on Jamal Adai there, coming over from Georgia. You've put together coaching staffs. Just what's the key in kind of rounding out, just putting together a staff? You know, just they've got, again, more coaches still to fill out here. They've got the coordinators, but just to when you're looking at it overall for a staff and putting it together, what are keys? What's the importance you think either for yourself or Coach Cristobal as he's putting this one together?
Guys that believe in your vision. You know, that's the most important thing. Guys who believe in exactly what you want to do, and guys who have when you're talking about a place like Miami, guys that have proven track records at being successful in the things that you need done on the coaching side.
You just touched on, you know, there's just a lot of excitement at Miami. I'm curious, and this is something that I've seen quite a bit over the years of covering this team, but just what do you think are some realistic expectations in the short term with Cristobal, with these guys, with this roster, again, coming off a season like they did? Just how soon can essentially they get this thing turned around and compete for conference championships or whatever? Just how soon, what's kind of realistic expectations you think?
Yeah, you want to keep what expectations. It's going to take, 3 to 5 years before you start talking about really competing for championships. You have to be able to win your division first, and if you can win your division, then you give yourself an opportunity to play in the conference championship game. And if you can do that, you give yourself an opportunity to play in the playoffs. But your first order of business has to be Miami has to become dominant again at winning their division in the ACC. And that's the first order of business.
And certainly, again, South Florida, Miami fans all across the world, just everyone's excited. Where do you stand in terms of looking at Miami big picture wise, a guy that covers college football, just with where they're at right now? I mean, just how do you see this? What's kind of Miami's place in this national landscape? A team that hasn't been ranked at the end of most years, and just kind of where do you see this program right now?
They still probably in the beginning right outside the top 25. They need to go out there and win some football games, but I think they hired the right coach, and I think he put together the right staff that you'll see a turnaround quickly. I would be surprised if they weren't in the top 25, by the end of this year, maybe towards the middle to the bottom of it. But you can't expect to go from where they've been the national championship in 1 year. You have to keep that in perspective as well. But I do think that they're headed in the right direction.
Offseason underway, strength and conditioning program. I touched on spring ball. What do you think is Miami's key, the biggest key for improvement that they need to address in the offseason?
Quarterback play, making sure you got consistent play from the quarterback position and making sure you can get stops on defense. That's always the most important things when you're trying to compete at a championship level.
And Tyler Van Dyke, Miami returns him at quarterback, a guy that won ACC Rookie of the Year. But now, a lot of attention will be on him. What do you see with him? And kind of how do you take what he did last year? What kind of next level for him as
Well,
he projects throughout his career here.
He played well last year under tremendous turmoil. I mean, Manny Diaz was on the hot seat probably almost immediately, and just the resiliency that those guys played with. Now he gets an OC and Josh Gattis who can come in and really take his game to the next level. I'm expecting to see him take a major leap in terms of quarterbacks throughout the country.
Defensively, you touched on it, just a key improvement. Where do all defenses essentially, where do they have to be good at? You've been a coach. Where does the defense have to excel at to be a good defense?
Stopping the run. You have to stop the run. If you can't stop the run, you don't have a chance. Stopping the run and being a great tackling team, both in the box and in the open field. And I think that Kevin Steele will bring that kind of a mentality to the defense.
Coach, I appreciate you taking the time to do this, the rundown of where Miami's at. A lot of coaching moves have already been made, more to come, but I appreciate you taking the time. It was nice talking to you.
All right, thank you too, brother.
Appreciate it.